Hey guys, Bombastic Bill here. Yeah. No, seriously. I just got done watching the third episode of The Man in the High Castle. Real quick, I love Phillip K Dick. I think he's one of the greatest authors ever. And I bring him up because he was very, let's say, liberal leaning. He obviously had a lot of belief in social liberalism. Was into the early use of the drug culture. It's actually, in fact, one of the reasons they think he died so young is he was a constant amphetamine addict. But a real interesting thing about him was that he was a Christian apologist. And what's interesting is kind of a weird story of how he became a Christian apologist. He was actually in getting a dental operation, and they gave him sodium pentanol, and he was recovering at home after the surgery, and they had to deliver some more prescriptions to his house. And when he answered the door, he opened the door and he had a complete vision that he was in ancient Rome as a Christian, basically facing the lions in the Colosseum. It's kind of a weird story. Take it for what it's worth. I think it's a very interesting story. But that somehow made him, basically believe in Christianity. Now, he wasn't a mainstream Bible-thumping evangelical Christian. He actually was very into Gnosticism, which is one of the earlier forms of Christianity, kind of dealing with the fact that all material things are bad. And that's kind of what I liked about. And he wrote The Man in the High Castle before all this happened, but you can kind of see some elements of that in that book. And so now you might yell at me, I didn't give the whole series a chance, so it might change in the next couple episodes, but I was really enjoying the show actually up until this last episode, this third episode. And what I really enjoyed about the book was, it's a great premise that, America didn't win World War II, and what would it be like if, Nazis had control of one half of the country and the Japanese had control of the other. But it just kind of uses that as a setting. I think the real greatness and complexity of the story is the kind of story within the story. And not only that, but the kind of discussion about what is artifice. So what do we take as ersatz and what do we take as actual authentic? So what really makes me mad about this show is that there's no Mr. Childan. So Mr. Childan was a really great character because he was somebody that in his overt actions kowtowed to the Japanese, but he really saw it as more of a pride thing to him. So it's not so much that he was kowtowing to the Japanese, but he almost accepted the Japanese way of life. It's something that appealed to him. So honor was really important to him. He really strove to, be his best at all times. And so that's one of the things I don't like about the show is not only is his character not in there, but basically it treats every person that's American as part of the resistance. So no matter what you are, you have to hate the Japanese, you have to hate the Germans. Whereas in the book, it was a lot more up in the air. So people generally accepted, day-to-day life. And that was what was really interesting is that people just accepted it. And that made The Grasshopper Lies Heavy such a better vehicle for change in the book. So you actually believe that this could get something done. And that's another thing that makes me angry about the show is that they changed it from a book into a film. Now, and a silent film at that. And not only that, it's a silent film of stock war footage. I know it's not exciting to watch people read books, but it offers a lot better story component to see people react to the book. And that brings me to another thing that I probably hate the most out of anything, and that is the character of Joe. So in the show, I mean, it's like all these shows now, if you have a cute younger guy as a lead, he has to be good. And again, I haven't seen the whole thing. He might be bad somehow, but it's like they're turning him into, he's doing things because he likes this woman or he thinks she's pretty and blah blah blah. Where in the book, it was such an interesting idea to have a German guy playing an Italian guy in the middle of America. I think that was such a cool idea, And again, it just goes with the theme of artifice, of what's real and what's not. And having, Juliana think about how to deal with it. It was such a better plot device in the book. And what really made me angry too was the addition of characters like this Marshall guy. I mean, it's totally just finding a way to put more violence in a book that really didn't need it. Another thing too I noticed in this episode was, I talked about Phillip K Dick and his experiences with drugs. It's like they shoehorned an LSD scene in this one. It had no purpose. Basically, the guy's tripping on LSD, this captive, and the Nazi comes and goes, "Oh, we gotta wait till he's done tripping to talk to him." I mean, how ridiculous is that? Whereas in the book, you actually have, in the Pacific states, marijuana is legal. So you have, Lando Smiles marijuana cigarettes that Frank smokes before he, goes into something that he's nervous about, which actually, served the plot. And, I was watching a scene today where Frank was, all distraught and he asked for a cigarette. I mean, that would have been a perfect time to pull out a marijuana cigarette and give it to him. It would have made so much more sense. So, yeah, I'm pretty angry about some of the choices in The Man in the High Castle. But, again, I think overall, it's just it's a good time to talk about Phillip K Dick. I think he was a great author. Some of his books are really good. And it's funny because a lot of his books, they are so, generic sci-fi. He used his laser pistol to shoot his quantum rays at the Zinphonians from, Sector 6. But it's got so much more deeper levels to it than that. So you can have a generic sci-fi story and have something deeper than that. His Valis series is excellent. That's actually really nothing like regular science fiction at all. So he was just a really interesting guy. It's funny because I talked about how he was very left wing and he lived in San Francisco and all of that. But he's one of my favorite authors, and my other favorite sci-fi author is Robert Heinlein, who is the exact opposite on the political spectrum. If you ever read Starship Troopers, great book. I love the movie too, but the book is actually really good. And just a quick note, funny thing about that book is that it's a junior reader. So it's actually made for, teenagers. And I've actually heard that people in the Army really appreciate that book because it's all about duty and everything. But anyway, Robert Heinlein was, on the right side of the political spectrum. And there was actually a point in Phillip K. Dick's life when he was, just really broke. He had gone through a divorce and everything, and Robert Heinlein gave him a loan, and Phillip K. Dick never forgot it. And it just kind of goes to show you that no matter what spectrum you are, you can always respect somebody for their ideas. And that just gets into the big politics today where we want to shut people up. We want to, no matter if you're left wing or right wing, you don't want to hear their opinions. Okay? You don't want to hear it, and so you shut people off. When in reality, the only way you get anywhere is by hearing people out. That's I've been making these flat earther videos, but I'm doing it not because I don't want to hear them anymore. I really just want to hear why they think the way they do. What is it? What's the pathology behind that thinking? What would make you think that the world is flat? So it's more than just, oh, I saw there's no curvature on a picture, because that wouldn't convince anybody who had a really sound logical mind. It's something I think more with jealousy and misunderstanding of science. But I'll talk about that tomorrow when I talk about flat earthers. So, thank you guys for putting up with me. I've been getting some actually really encouraging comments. So please like and subscribe.